Shifting focus to a breaking news update, coming in a big boost for the states of Gujarat and Uttarakhand as far as their plan to bring in UCC, the Uniform Civil Code, is concerned. In fact, the Supreme Court has now green signalled for the panels, the constitution of the panel which was proposed by the respective state governments. The CGI maintains constitution of committees set up by Gujarat and Uttarakhand to frame UCC is a challenge here. Article 162 indicates that executive power of states extends to what legislature permits it to, like make rules pertaining to divorce, inheritance, maintenance, etc. So that's the top court now observing that the extent of executive power of states is subject to the provisions of this constitution. Let me go across to our legal editor Harish joining us with more details. An important note made by the top court here, the Supreme Court essentially green signalling for the constitution of panel which was proposed earlier on both by Gujarat and Uttarakhand. Harish.
Yes, in fact, this is perfectly in tone with what Chief Justice of India D.Y. Chandrachud earlier had said in a petition which had sought a direction to the centre to draft a UCC for nationally. Supreme Court had very clearly said that this is the prerogative of the legislature, of the parliament. We cannot dictate terms. We cannot direct the government to draft a UCC. So it is completely the domain of the parliament or a legislature. So perfectly in keeping in tune with that observations today, the Supreme Court has refused to admit a PIL which demanded that committees formed by Uttarakhand and Gujarat to examine the feasibility of implementing the Uniform Civil Code be scrapped. And so this is a big green signal for the committees formed by Gujarat and Uttarakhand's plan to bring in the UCC. And I quote Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud. He has said that constitution of committee set up by Gujarat and Uttarakhand to frame UCC has been challenged here. And Article 162 indicates that executive power of states extends to what legislature permits it to make rules pertaining to divorce, inheritance, maintenance, etc. Extent of executive power of the state subject to provision of this constitution. The executive power of the state shall extend to the matters with respect to which the legislature of the state has power to make laws.
So all right, we have one of the petitioners also with us. Let me straight away go across to him. Mr. Anup with us right now. Sir, what do you have to react as far as the Chief Justice of India is concerned, rejecting the plea that had been filed against the Uttarakhand government and the panel that was formed on the implementation of UCC?
Actually, this is very unfortunate moment that UCC, which has been concepted by our constitution maker to be made only for throughout territory of India, and that can only be made by the parliament. It is unfortunate that the present scenario which is going on, that if that can be upheld, it means that each and every state will be at liberty to make a uniform civil code for their state. That will increase the provincial nationalism, I think, and totally against the constitution, because in the Article 44 itself used the word throughout the territory of India, and when throughout territory of India is being used in Article 44, it means that the UCC can be enacted and made only for entire nation. That cannot be isolated for state.
Okay, but are you saying that, Mr. Anup, are you then referring to the fact that perhaps a law such as this should be brought in at the national level and against the constitution of these kind of panels on the state level? Is that your contention here?
Yes. Yeah, that is the sole contention. We have also challenged all the religion-based laws on the ground that it is violative of Article 13 and 40. On the ground that 13 says that 13 guarantees us that all the citizens of India is to be governed by unpolluted laws. All the laws which are violative of Article 14, 15 cannot be continued to be existed or cannot be made. Now it is unfortunate for this nation that we have become habitual to be governed by the laws which discriminate us on the basis of religion, and that enactment, that legislation were also being challenged in our petition. But that position could not become on account of the fact that we are at Allahabad.
Now has not been accepted by the Supreme Court. What is being said so far? Thank you very much, Mr. Anup, for joining us here on the broadcast. We also have Mr. Mr. Ratan Shardaji. Ratan Shardaji, Gujarat, Uttarakhand, are you expecting more states also to come up with their respective panels on UCC? Because the Supreme Court here seems to be highlighting the indication and the power, the executive power of the states.
Well, I think the Supreme Court has taken the right decision in the light of directive principles, and making committee doesn't make into a law. Ultimately, law will have to come from the central government as a constitution. But still, it is important that decisions are being taken and finally are moving towards the directive principle which was established in 1950. And I think people should stop taking everything into PIL and taking court's time on every issue that is brought up. And that only shows they don't want to move progressively towards any resolution of the pending issues in 1950.
Okay. Mr. Sharda, what do you essentially make of what the top court has noted? Like we've been discussing, this of course paves way for more states to step in and perhaps go ahead with forming this kind of a panel that in fact looks into the feasibility of bringing in UCC, for example. But this essentially means that all of that is being done within the ambit of the state's decision, is also lying within the ambit of the judiciary. As per the Supreme Court, the state has the power to do so.
Exactly. So, see, I cannot comment on the legality of the issue, but I can only comment as something that we need wider discussions, and wider discussions can happen only when there are committees involved and committees made and there are discussions. To not allow this discussion to take place is against the very essence of democracy.
Ratan Shardaji, thank you very much for your point of view. So important to note what is being said by the Supreme Court today while rejecting the petition which has actually questioned the panel that was formed by the Uttarakhand government. Even when it comes to Article 162 that indicates that the executive power of the states extends to what legislature permits and it to make the rules pertaining to divorce, inheritance, maintenance, etc. Rashid Alviji is also with us of the Congress. Sir, as far as any state that could come up with their planning, with their panel, rather when it comes to making a draft on uniform civil codes, it was being challenged in the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court has rejected it.
Hello.
Rashid Alviji, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, I can hear you. Actually, it is not the problem relating to Supreme Court. UCC, it is basically, it is the responsibility of Parliament, it is the responsibility of assemblies. We are not against uniform civil code, but we say that all political parties should be taken in confidence, all religious leaders should be consulted, then there should be consensus on it. Only then it should be passed by any assembly or by any parliament. If every assembly will pass separately, there are 28 states. Today it is one Muslim personal law, one Christian law, one Hindu law. Tomorrow it may be 28 laws. So what is the benefit out of it? Basically, BJP wants to polarize. That is the reason they always talk about UCC just before the election. It happened in Gujarat also. Before the election, they said, we are going to implement UCC, and it happened in Himachal Pradesh also. For last 5 years, they are in power in Himachal, and for last 25 years, they are in power in Gujarat. But they didn't implement it. They didn't pass any law in the assemblies. But just before the election, they make such a statement just to polarize the
But Rashid Alviji, there was also one of the petitioners who has said that if a report could be suggested to the Law Commission to look into every aspect, as you've been suggesting that you are not against UCC, but every aspect that needs to be taken into consideration. Would you be in favor of the Law Commission here stepping in, looking into every aspect, and thereafter submitting a report to the government, whether or not it should be implemented or not?
Law Commission has already given its report. I do not know. You should know it. Chairman of Law Commission, even during Modi ji's regime, Commission has rejected this idea. Commission has already said that no need for uniform civil code. You go through the report of Commission. It is BJP government. They are interested just to polarize the society. They are ignoring even the report of a Law Commission. Chairman of Law Commission was appointed by Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji.
Okay.
Even then, she has
agreed,
given-
Mr. Alvi, that the Law Commission report said that UCC is not desirable or practical, should be discussed in the Parliament, and that's what you're also stating. But as far as the Congress's point of view is concerned, the Congress is also of the opinion that the BJP brings up the issue ahead of elections. Now that a panel has been constituted, they're looking into the feasibility of implementing UCC. What is the problem there, sir? They're taking it beyond elections.
Problem is we are not against UCC. Why every assembly is forming this panel? Why not central government? Why not union government? If you are interested, one nation, one law, sir, this law should be passed by the parliament, and you know it is not dictatorship. You should consult all political parties, you should consult all leaders,
right.
You should consult all religious leaders. What is wrong in it? Whether
But
you want
so
to
far, when it comes to
implement
the
it,
Supreme Court, it has rejected that very petition there, which had challenged the Uttarakhand panel on the formation of the UCC. Thank you very much, Mr. Rashid Alviji, saying that the basically matter that pertains to the enactment of the law should be left to the wisdom of the Parliament. Let's